We are back.
We are back with chapter 5. This chapter
is my favorite chapter.
It's actually my favorite chapter too.
Yeah. She did. Oh shit!
What?
I went down.
Get back in. The fuck? All right. This chapter is on. Jamal, what are you doing?
Okay, just read it.
This chapter is on male sexual being.
Mm.
This is really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So bell hooks start off with the chapter about how most men and women are not having satisfying, fulfilling sex.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. So she said, we have all heard the notion that men come to relationship looking for sex and not love, and that women come to relationship looking for love and not sex. In actuality, men come to sex hoping that it will provide them with all the emotional satisfaction that would come from love. Most men think that sex will provide them with a sense of being alive, connected, and that sex will offer closeness, intimacy, pleasure. And more often than not, sex simply does not deliver the goods. This fact does not lead men to cease obsessing about sex. It intensifies the lust and the longing.
How are you gonna
start off like that?
No. How are you gonna long for something that gives you absolutely what you don't want? Like the thing that you're not looking for. If you're looking for satisfaction, pleasure, intimacy, sex is not it.
Wait, what? I don't think that's what she's saying, though.
She said most people think that sex is going to provide them the sense of being alive, connected, and that sex will offer intimacy, pleasure, and all that. But often than not, it does not deliver that. So what brings about being alive, connected, and intimacy and pleasure?
Love, right?
Exactly. But they don't want that. They want sex. And women want love. Yeah.
Yeah.
But even though it doesn't deliver the goods, they're obsessed with it because we live in a culture where they're like, oh, you have to be obsessed with it because that is your rite of passage as a man. That is how you prove yourself, if not through violence, rage, it is through sex.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that is really, really acceptable. I mean, that is really, really yeah, it is through that, those three things.
Yeah.
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 So if you haven't become a man through violence or having sex with a woman, then you're not a man. Like, you're a bitch. That's what your homeboys are gonna call you. That's why you have those locker room talks, barbershop talks. They always talk about sex and violence,
because that is
and gangster rap and very much just overall violence against women.
Yeah, sexual violence against women.
Yeah,
it's something to brag about. It's something that is deemed as acceptable in the culture, yeah. Right? But bell hooks is that's unfulfilling. It's cheap sex. It's cheap.
Yeah,
that type of longing is just lust.
They want to take a shortcut to that desire, that intimacy, the thing, but they don't want to do the work.
Mm-hmm.
But women, they want love, so they are able to do the work.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. She goes on to say, if women had been taught through sexist socialization that a journey through the difficult terrain of sex will lead us to our heart's desire, men have been taught that their heart's desire should be for sex and more sex. Coming in the walk of sexual liberation, women's liberation seems to promise heterosexual and bisexual men that women would begin to think the same way men do about sexuality, that female sexuality would become just as predatory, just as obsessive as male sexual desires. So basically, she's talking about how when the second wave feminism became at its height, right, women were experimenting sexually, right? They were sexually liberated. They wanted to explore. They would have more sex, right? So men were afraid that by women having more liberty in their sexuality, men are viewing that, oh, women are becoming like us.
Yeah, they're becoming dogs because women are not supposed to have a desire for sex.
They're supposed to be very
submissive and demure, and they're supposed to wait for sex until marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're liberated sexually, they're just gonna become like us.
Yeah,
and
they don't want that.
Yeah, so they don't. So they want to have sex, not with prostitutes. They want to have sex with like women that are not liberated, so that they can defile the women, because they don't want a defiled and already liberated woman. That's why the whole thing of like the body count thingy, where like a woman's body count is like above 5 or above 2. And the men think, oh, she's a hoe. She's for the streets.
But sir, you're the original hoe. What are you talking about?
Like you are literally the original hoe. You want sex and more sex and more sex and more sex
because you think it's a rite of passage.
Yeah, and you think that's what makes you a man.
Yeah, and I actually blame women too, because we see men who are more sexually experienced as a good thing. That is why the men are boastful that, oh, they have slept with hundreds and thousands of women. And it's like, sir, you're disgusting.
Yeah.
You're the least likely to go to a fucking doctor to get a checkup.
Yeah.
And you are the one who's like having sex raw. Oh my God. And the fact that women see as that to be desirable.
Attractive. That's kind of fucking
That's
weird.
why that is why I feel like women do perpetuate in the
patriarchal,
men.
sexist.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and it's like, bruh. Anyway, let's move on. Okay. So, in the second page, she talks about, in our culture, these attitudes toward sexuality have been embraced by most men and many post-sexual liberationists, post-feminist women. They are at the root of our cultural obsession with sex. When I first began to write books on love, to talk to lone individuals and an large audience about the subject, I realized that it was practically impossible to have a serious discussion about love. That discussion of love, especially public conversation, are taboo in our society. Yet, everyone talks about sex. We see all manner of sexual scenes on our televisions and movie scenes. Talking about sex is acceptable. Talk shows engage audience daily with the explicit discussion of sexuality. Discussion of sex are fundamentally easier to engage in because in patriarchal culture, sex has been presented to us as a normal desire. Most folks believe we are hardwired biologically to long for sex, but they do not believe we are hardwired to long for love. Almost everyone believes that we can have sex without love. Most folks do not believe that a couple can have love in a relationship if there is no sex.
And I used to think this too.
Think about what?
Remember when we were watching 90 Days Fiancé?
Oh my God.
And what's her name? Sophie and was it
Sophie?
Remember the British girl, the 24-year-old, the blonde girl, and what's the guy's name? Rob. So they've been married for a year, right? A little over a year, and they haven't had sex in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So she was telling this. There was a scene where she was telling this friend of hers about how there's no love in this relationship, so we're just gonna put that out there. But the friend was shocked that she hadn't had sex for 6 months,
and so it's like they're newlyweds too. Like that is like the perfect time for them to like engage in more like sexual acts and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, but I just want to read. I don't know why I brought that up, but like I want to say, if let's say there is love in the relationship.
But there's no sex.
But why wouldn't there be sex?
Some people are just not sexually.
But if you are,
I mean, yeah, if you are, then
so she's saying almost everyone believes that we can have sex without love. Most people do not believe that a couple can have love in a relationship without sex.
Yeah.
Now, what does that really mean?
It means that sex is not a part of the love. Remember how we did compassion, commitment, trust, responsibility, respect, empathy, courage. That was understanding, right? Compassion, right? Those 10. Sex is not a part of that, right?
Okay.
So just like how people can have sex without love, it's still taboo to have love without sex, and I think that should be normalized. I think that should be normalized. I think that we should accept love without sex. Because because ultimately everybody wants love. And I'm not talking about just romantic love. I'm talking about love in general, right?
Yeah,
everybody wants
but
love.
she's talking about heterosexual
That's what
love,
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Intimacy.
People have, like, married couple have sex all the time, but they do not love each other. Right?
Yeah.
If the goal is love, then sex is just like something,
an expression of that.
An expression of that. But it's not encompassant of love. Because,
it's not everything.
Like she said,
it's not
everything. You can have sex without love. So if you can have sex without love, then the other way goes around too. You can have love without sex. Right?
Okay.
And I think that should be normalized. I think that should be normalized. I don't think that it should be frowned upon for those couples. Like, now, if you know yourself that you're not sexually, like, you know, if you're not a sexual person and your partner is not a sexual person, then okay, then you guys are on a common ground. Now, if you have one person who's more sexually active than you, okay, then there's going to be like some type of like clash in that. Yeah. But I think if you guys love each other, right? And if you got, okay, like, let's just say, for example, right, a two couple used to have sex all the time, and then one couple got into a car accident where he's like can't have sex anymore. Do you think that they don't love each other anymore?
I mean, sex is not sex is a nuanced thing. It's not a penetrative thing. So just because you can't penetrate does not mean you can't have sex.
You're talking about intimacy.
No.
You're talking about sex?
I'm talking about sex.
Okay. So, like, there's oral sex,
there's a lot. Sex is an umbrella. It's not like I'm going to put your peanuts.
Yeah, but, like, I'm saying, like, is sex a part of love? I don't think so.
I mean,
I don't think so. I don't think sex is a part of love. Because the people that I love, I'm not having sex with them.
No, this is in a heterosexual couple relationship.
That's what I'm saying, like... Okay. So why does this only happen in a romantic relationship?
Sex?
Yeah. In a sense that, like, if we have defined love across the board, why is it that when it comes to a heterosexual relationship between a man and a woman, the love is not enough? You need to have sex in order to cement that love. Because if I'm saying I love my mom, my sisters, my aunties, or whatever like that is true love. That is, like you said, the understanding, the compassion, all that, right? Now, in a heterosexual relationship, right, it is kind of like second nature that, oh, like, you're having sex, like, because you're married, okay, cool.
You have kids, yeah.
You have kids, okay, cool. But on a topic of sex and on a topic of love, I'm just saying that we shouldn't redefine love in a heterosexual relationship. If love is love across the board, let it be love across the board, regardless if you're in a heterosexual relationship. But when it comes to a heterosexual relationship, we want to add sex into it.
Well, yeah, because sex is a part of desire.
You can be desired without having sex.
I said sex is a part of desire.
That's what I'm saying, but, like, it's not a part of love. Because the goal is love, right? Isn't the goal is love? The goal is not sex. The goal is love.
What are you trying to say, though? Like, because I'm kind of confused. What are you trying to say? You're saying all this to say what?
I'm trying to say that sex is not a part of love. If anything...
Oh, okay, I can agree with that.
If anything, well, I would put intimacy to be closer in being a part of love than sex.
Okay, so just because you have sex doesn't mean you're being intimate with somebody.
Yeah.
I mean,
right?
Sex is a very intimate act.
Yeah, but people detached, right?
People compartmentalize intimacy and sex.
Yeah.
People can give away their body and you don't have
feel anything.
Capacity to
people
feel
like yeah. Okay. People have sex all the time. They feel absolutely nothing. because there's no love, there's no intimacy. So that's what I'm saying. Like,
so
but that only happens when it's heterosexual relationship, so if I can, or in a sexual relationship.
If I can sum up what you're saying, what you're saying is that the part where she says almost everyone believes that we can have sex without love. Most folks do not believe that a couple can have love if there is no sex.
Right.
So you're saying that if there's no love and there's no sex, this does not mean that there's no intimacy.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if there's no sex in the heterosexual relationship,
that does not mean you're not being loved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
But to be in a heterosexual relationship and not have sex is kind of like,
there's a lot of people that are asexual, right?
Yeah.
So they're not sexually attracted to like the opposite gender, but they're in a relationship.
Yeah, but generally speaking, most people are not ace.
That's what I'm saying. Like that should be normalized.
No. People need to have sex.
What?
Men? Yeah. No.
It's a need now.
So you want. Well, depending on who you are, some people say that they need it, but I'm
not saying that the others should not happen. I'm saying this part should be normalized. That's all I'm saying. If you want to have sex,
a heterosexual relationship with no sex,
yeah,
should be normalized.
It should be normalized. I'm not saying don't have sex. I'm saying the other foot should be normalized too.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
All right, let's move on.
But I'm saying it should be normalized, but it shouldn't be called into question that, oh, just because I'm not having sex, I don't love you.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, that took a long time to get that.
That's fine.
Anyway.
Let's see.
Okay, I want to talk about it. Another thing, right? It says, feminist movement was able to challenge and change notions of female inequality on many fronts, particularly in such arenas at work, education, and religion. However, sexism continues to shape the ways most people think about sexual relations. No matter how many men in our nation are celibate or have only occasional sexual experience, people still believe that sex is something men have to have.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that.
Absolutely not.
Underlining this assumption is the belief that if men are not sexually active, they will act out or go crazy.
Blue balls!
Okay.
Yeah.
This is why male-on-male violence is acceptable in our nation's prison. This is why rape, whether date rape, marital rape, or stranger rape, is still not deemed as serious crime.
That's true.
This is why the rape of children, especially when
conducted by malmanners,
nice men, is allowed. If this were not so, celebrities accused of sexual abusing children would no longer be a
cultural
icon. Excuse me. The assumption that he gotta have it underlines much of our cultural acceptance of male sexual violence. It is why many people continue to believe that anyone who is raped may have asked for it by seductive dressing or behavior, no matter how many television programs have aired the facts about sexual violence. So,
yeah, sex.
This is what I want to talk about.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to talk about okay. She says
this chapter kicked my ass though.
Yeah,
it's just a lot. Yeah. It's a lot about a lot.
So she said, no matter how many men in our culture are celibate or have occasional sexual experience, people still believe that sex is something men have to have.
Yeah.
I don't personally believe that. Because you are not owed sex.
Just because you're a fucking man.
Number one, that's sexist, by the way.
Yeah, right? Very misogynistic.
Nobody owes you sex. Nobody owes you their body. Right? But the patriarchy says that you can have sex.
Yeah, because if you don't have sex, you're not a man.
You're not.
So to fuel your ego, you have to participate in these, outlets that you have to participate in outlets that you have to buy sex. Or you have to be, or if you are not sexually active, you're gonna have blue balls and you're not gonna be a man. So it's just a way to boast to other men that you can get some ass. It doesn't fulfill you, one.
It really doesn't.
Because we know that you want
love. That's what you want.
You want the fulfillment that love is going to afford you, but you're taking the cheapest route to get to it, which is sex. But you don't get what sex offers. So you want to have more sex and more sex and more sex for the possibility that you can have a fraction of what love can give you.
Yeah.
So you're lying to yourself. You're lying to yourself by going to a sex worker or enacting sexual violence against women because you think that sex is owed to you. But really what you want is love.
But I also wanted to like interject and intersect the notion of like the priesthood of how like traditional priests are like celibate, right? They dedicate their whole life to the church, to the work of God. I'm not talking about the ones that are like true. I'm not talking about those that are like raping kids or whatever like that, right? I'm talking about those that are like extremely celibate, right?
It's not funny, but yeah.
It's not funny.
Yeah.
That are extremely celibate, and monks too, right? You know how like red pillars say, oh, men need to have sex. Men need to have sex. If they don't have sex, then they're going to go out and kill these women, and they're going to be rageful towards women.
Yeah, like if they don't have sex, that's when they're going to enact violence the most.
Yeah, and men need sex, right? First of all, that is propaganda across the board.
Literally.
Right? Men don't
need anything. Men don't need sex. You need love. That's what you want. But you think that you can get love from sex.
Right.
Like, everybody needs love. Everybody needs to love themselves and to love others.
Yeah.
But you don't know how to love yourself.
Yeah.
Or others. So you take the cheapest way to get there. But you don't even get there. You're not even on the route. You took a whole detour. The biggest detour.
Yeah.
That's going to catch you one day with erectile dysfunctions. Okay? And you know, STDs, STI, gonorrhea, and all that. Like, yeah. Sorry.
Right. So the whole reason why I brought up the whole monk situation is that if monks can do it,
men can do it too. If priests in a Catholic church can do it and they actually done it, they've abstained from sex in real time and for a long time. Men can do it. We are still in the same culture, the same patriarchal culture.
Yeah.
So you can do it too. So to believe that men need sex when you have culture like in China, there's like monks that don't participate in that. They have their own commune or whatever.
Yeah. They live like far away from women too, by the way.
Yeah. They don't even have access to that. Like,
I think that should be normalized.
Yeah.
That should be normalized. Like that should be like something like, you know, is like a class or something like that.
Yeah.
But
can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Would you marry somebody with a high body count?
Would I marry somebody with a high body count? I plead the fifth on that.
Okay.
No, but I honestly like I don't even know if I want to like marry like like I don't. It doesn't sound like a good deal to me.
Let's say you've got the best deal. The best person who can do whatever, not whatever, but like you can have the care, commitment, trust, basically love, empathy, all that. What would you do? But
why do we have to be married?
But they have a high body count.
Why do we have to be married then? If we truly love each other and if we're truly committed to each other, why do we have to be married?
Because there's incentives to be married in America.
I don't want to get married in America.
Okay. What if there's an incentive to be married elsewhere, like in Japan?
Japan is like probably one of the most like misogynistic nations.
Okay. Pick a nation. Okay. Pick a nation where you're funny as shit. Pick a nation, pick a country, pick a territory. I don't care. Pick something and answer the goddamn question. Like,
okay, if I had to pick a perfect scenario of how I would be married, right? Number one, we would not be living together.
They have their own place. I have my own
You have
space.
your own house. I have my own house. That's number one.
Amen.
Okay?
I'm with that.
If we do get married, prenup.
Ooh.
Prenup. And the prenup, I would put like clause on the prenup like, okay, if one party cheats, manipulates, coerce, basically do anything that is patriarchal, and there is evidence of that, the victim is getting 80% of the assets in the household. 80% off the gate.
Yeah, don't get married.
Off the gate. Listen. Off the gate. 80%. 80%.
Damn.
Number three. If there's children involved, if there's a boy, the boy stays with the dad, and I get the boys on the weekend. The boy on the weekend. If there's a girl, the girl stays with me, and the guy takes the girl for the weekend, and we'll switch. That is the way I see myself benefiting from the situation. Now, what else? I think that's it. Yeah, not living together, or prenup, with children. If it's a boy, the boy stays with the dad, the girl stays with the mom, and then we switch for the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my perfect scenario. Is that going to happen? Absolutely the fuck not. But that's why I'm not married. There you go.
Okay.
What about you?
Definitely separate housing and prenup.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's about it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What about kids?
No kids.
Really?
No kids.
Okay. All right then.
Alrighty.
Let me see.
Okay. Yeah, let's talk about so she talked about how like children are exposed to sexual
propaganda when it comes to like television and media.
Yeah, especially boys.
Yeah.
And basically how sex is portrayed on TV screen is very patriarchal. Very much the dominant and the submissive. Even in heterosexual relationships too, it's the same thing. You have the dominator and the submissive, the bottom, top, all that. So she talks about how we are a victim of patriarchal sexual images that are perpetuated on TV.
Mm-hmm.
We can't escape it.
Yeah. But this is what I wanted to read though, right? Okay. Children today learn more about sex from mass media than from any other source. Whether watching daytime soap operas or porn channels or X-rated movies, children in our nations are more aware of the body and of sexuality than ever before. Yet, much of what they are learning about sexuality conforms to outdated patriarchal script about the sexual nature of men and women, of masculinity and femininity. They learn that in the world of sexual relations, there are always a dominant party and a submissive party. They learn that males should dominate females, that strong men should dominate weaker men. They learn that whether he is heterosexual or homosexual, a man deprived of sexual access will ultimately be sexual with anybody.
So, like,
what is that like?
So, is anybody really straight? Are the men actually straight or not? Because according to her, as long as you're sexually deprived, you can have a sex with a fucking dog. You can have a sex with an alligator.
I saw this article where like these men are having.
So you have no self-control, huh?
Dead bodies.
Yeah. So if you're, oh my god, not the fucking morgue.
The morgue. I heard about that story.
Men are having sex with dead bodies.
Ooh, chat.
So you lack sexual self-control.
Yeah, because it is their birthright in a patriarch to have access to sex. Once they don't have access to sex, they're like.
They can have sex with anybody.
They're glitching now.
Anybody.
Yeah.
Even non-human people. Even dead people. That's disgusting. Oh my goodness. What the fuck?
Yeah. Okay. If deprived long enough, even if he is straight, he will have sex with another man if he's gay. The deprivation will lead him to engage in a desperate sexual act with women. Again and again, children fear.
Oh, and children too. Yeah.
Children hear the message from mass media that when it comes to sex, he gotta have it. Adults may know better from their own experience, but children become true believers They think that men will go mad if they cannot act sexually. This is the logic that produced what feminist thinkers call rape culture.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
That's what that is. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Me Too movement too. Right? These, movements that are like coming about over like women in in the workplace being sexually harassed, sexually coerced, to give favors, to, if you're trying to get this promotion, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's like, bruh.
It's like all of that just because you don't have a sexual.
Well, even if they do, the thrill of seeing what that person is willing to do in order to kind of like just the thrill of like coercing a person to do what you want against their will.
Yeah.
Is dominating. Like, yeah. It's powerful. It's like exhilarating to them. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. But it says, males, whether straight or gay, learn early in life that one of the primary reward offered to them for obedience to patriarchal thoughts and practice is the right to dominate females sexually. And if no female is around, they have the right to place a weaker male in the female position. In an anthology victim, no longer men recovering from incest and another sexual child abuse, men who had been victimized by stronger boys, brothers, and other male peers share how the logic of patriarchal thinking about the right of the strong do so as they wish that whom they deem weak had presented to them by their abuser. The same logic has usually shaped the thinking about sexuality embraced by adult abuser. Oof. I don't want to talk about that part.
Why not? Wait, which one? The same logic has usually shaped the thinking about sexuality embraced by... yeah.
Yeah, let's skip that.
No, we have to talk about it.
No.
The writer adds rights of his older brother's sexual abuse of him. This is really deep, so viewer discretion is advised. Quote. Ooh. Yeah. But look, this is in the book. If you get the book, you come on now. We have to read it.
Yeah.
Viewer discretion is advised. But we're going to have this conversation because it's very important. I learned about sex when I was 9 years old. I was giving blowjobs at 10. While other kids were out playing with guns, I learned how to please a man. I was taught how to be a woman. My brother likes to act out fantasies in which he was the man and I was the woman. Quote. This older brother married and took with him into marriage the notion that it was his right to have sex with anybody he desired, whether they were wanted or not. His need to dominate was the salient features of all his sexual relationship. So
there's a lot more pervasive thing that goes on in like the family structure that nobody really wants to talk about,
especially in the Black community. Like, we know about that uncle that he's very touching, but he's protected.
Oof.
He's protected.
Protected, yeah.
Just don't talk about it. It's been so long.
I think you're probably lying. Like, why would you say that he's nothing like that? What are you talking about?
He's always been very nice to me.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about. It was such a long time ago. It's in the past.
You should let it go.
Yeah. She seeks therapy.
Yeah.
And
why are we trying to ruin that perfect family? Like, they have done nothing but being nice and kind to us. They always invite us to like Thanksgiving and Christmas. Like, why would you want to ruin a perfect family?
They've always given us gifts and very loving. Like, this is really sad. So the book is basically an anthology of men recovering from, child abuse, sexual violence. And this is very deep. And this older man, the brother is married.
They have kids now.
And it's like,
they just go on about their life with no consequences.
Yeah.
And this younger brother has to face the traumatic experience of like being sexually exploited at the age of 9 when you're supposed to be carefree and enjoy your childhood. And like, that's why I personally believe that not everybody should have kids nilly-willy. Not everybody should have kids. I feel like there should be like some psychological evaluation before you have kids, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and I also think too, like, we really need to hold these men accountable. Like, you see how like there was no accountability.
Of course, he just went about his life.
Now, he said He learned about sex when he was 9 and he was giving blowjobs at 10. How long from 10 did that kept going until the brother was married?
Ooh.
Now, if I want to know further, I'm gonna have to get the book. Now, I don't know if I'm gonna get this book because this is just a lot.
Yeah,
like it's just a lot.
It's a lot.
But like I could, oftentimes than not, like it would be years of abuse by your own brother.
Yeah,
because he thinks that it's his birthright, and then that abuse that has been done to you, you do that to other people. Because now you have this learned behavior, and you think that you're. It is also your right to do that to other people because hurt people. And then you have this whole chain of events that happens over and over again, whether it be through family members, through friends, through girlfriends, boyfriends, all that. It just keeps going. And you take that elsewhere. And there's no accountability. Nothing happens.
Yeah.
Nothing. You're just...
It's really sad.
It's really sad.
It's really, really sad. Yeah. Yeah. But like, these are the types of things like we have to talk about, right? And I'm really glad that Bell Hooks like put that in there, although it was a very like short passage of like the author. Like,
yeah,
it's very important to see how pervasive these sex, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, sex is so powerful, right? Like, it's very, very powerful. It's not only like mentally, emotionally, it's so deep. And being taught this sexual act at a very early age can truly redefine
your brain chemistry.
Yeah.
It can just change the direction of your life.
Yeah.
How you think about your body.
Yeah.
Other people around you. Yeah.
How you treat other people, right? How you encounter the same sexual act again in an adult life.
It can like trigger you. Like, you may not want to be in a relationship ever again.
Yeah.
You may not want to perform oral sex again.
Yeah.
Because that could trigger you.
Yeah. 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 But yeah, I'm glad like she introduced that, and she basically went into the dominational culture when it comes to sex.
And also between the same sex. Yes, they're brothers, but like the whole thing of like, I'm the man and you're the woman and you're supposed to serve me. You're supposed to give me blowjobs. Like, that's kind of patriarchal and powerful. This is why the whole church, when the church says that like woman needs to be submissive, that automatically means to me that the man is dominating.
Of course.
And I don't believe that.
Why can the man be submissive?
Right. Yeah.
Why can the man be submissive?
Which is why I believe like Paul, who wrote the epistles, is low-key misogynist. Like, maybe he said that in the epistles for that group at the time, but the church really used that to dominate women.
That is like, Paul is like the freaking pimp or whatever. Like,
yeah. Well, this is what Paul said.
The apostle, one of the saints.
But then again, if you read further, it's like, the men is supposed to love women as God loved the church. And what did God do? God literally gave his life for the church. But these men are not going to give their lives for you.
Oh my God. That is the least thing they would do.
These men will never give their lives to you. But God in them said, you're supposed to give your life to your wife the way Jesus gave his life to the church. Are any men in the room giving their life to their wives? No. It's actually the opposite. The wives are giving their lives to you. They're laying down their lives to you because they're being submissive while you're dominating them. You're trampling on them because they come under you.
Yeah, and they're birthing your kids too.
Like, what? What? Do you know how much of a responsibility it is to bear your life to your wife? I don't think I have ever seen any church pastor, any church leaders lay down his life for his wife. I've never seen it. I've not seen it in Hillsong. I've not seen it in the churches that I go to. When I was going to church, I've not seen it in, like, when I was listening to, like, these church pastors.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Because what does that look like?
I don't know what that looks like. But yeah.
Anyways.
So. Okay. So this is something that So bell hooks goes on to talk about like, the culture within the dominant culture, which is like the sexual violence that is very pervasive, and these men think it's like their birthright. So I'm gonna read. Okay. Within a cultural domination, struggles of power are enacted daily in human relationship, often assumes their worst form in situation of intimacy. The patriarchal man who never responds to demands from his boss with outright rage and abuse will respond with fury with intimates with when initiated once what is this? Intimates?
Yeah, when intimates want him to change his behavior.
Okay, cool. Men who do not daily lie and cheat at their jobs do so in their intimate bond. This lying is usually connected in inappropriate behavior, sexual behavior, or to discomfort about sexual behavior. In this powerful essay, Who He Was, Eric Gutierrez. Jeez, what is he, Italian? Gutierrez
Gutierrez is a Hispanic.
Hispanic? Mm-hmm. Okay. Gutierrez. Sorry. I just, anyway. Recounts how he told lies to cover up the reality that his father was gay. Ooh, child. We finna get in here. Okay. About the time I began lying about my father, I began lying about myself. I didn't offer my lie indiscretionally, rather than making up comforting details that would portray my flashing gay father more like a hardworking lawn-mowing dad that lined our street. I instead embellished his shortcomings, his weakness, his rage into real perversity. I enthralled my classmates with stories of how my father would tie us up or throw crystal goblets at my terrorized mother. I was an accomplished liar, building false identity for my father and myself by overstating truth on its own trajectory. End quote. Oof. Lying about
sexuality.
Lying about sexuality is an accepted part of patriarchal masculinity. Sex is where many men act out because it is the only social arena where the patriarchal promise of dominion can be easily realized. Without those perks, masses of men might have rebelled against patriarchy long ago. Yo, when I read this.
So you're telling me we could have rebelled against patriarchy long ago through sex? Because it is the only arena where they can actually physically use to dominate. Yes, there's, physical abuse that is not sexual, just like physical abuse. But if women would just stop having sex with these men, and other men would stop having sex with these men, it's a done deal.
It's a done deal.
It's a done deal.
Patriarchy over. That is very powerful.
They can't like, yeah.
That is very, like, it is through.
So remember, like, they really do value sex like that.
Remember when I talk about sexual conflict?
When?
The sexual conflict between the men and women. When it comes down to the sex, it is due to this. It is because of the sexual. It is. What am I saying?
Take a deep breath.
Because men and women have different body parts, there will always be sexual conflict. Meaning, there will always be a party that would want to get sex, right? Because the womb is a very powerful place. The womb creates life, right? So, and I'm not talking about like, okay, like if you're gay, okay, you have sex. I'm talking about sexual conflict in a sense of it reproducing to a new life.
Okay.
There will always be that conflict.
Okay, because women have wombs and
we
women
create
have
life,
uteruses,
right?
Create life.
Yeah.
So our sexual plight in the market, we need to be careful with how we mate.
It's not even about mating. If we all just stop, what like the patriarchy gone.
Oh, because there's no way to reproduce.
Exactly. So what is there to fight for? Why do you have patriarchy? Why do you have capitalism? Right? Why do you have these isms?
Yeah.
It's because of this
because you're birthing these people that are keeping it alive. So if women could just stop having sex with men and birthing these men, then there is no, like, patriarchy is gonna crumble. But that's a very extreme. I get it though. That is a very.
It makes sense though.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It has to be extreme.
I don't think that's what she's talking about here.
But that's she didn't peep that. She didn't peep that.
I don't think that's what she's talking about.
But I peeped that.
I think she just meant that sexual, patriarchal sex as a form of domination, if heterosexual women remove themselves from heterosexual patriarchal sex, or just sex with men, then there is no way for them to dominate us sexually, right? And if there's no way for them to dominate us sexually, then most men can rebel against patriarchy. Because patriarchy has not allowed them to have access to women like
that's what they promised, yeah.
So the promise of sex really is that strong for them.
Of course.
It is something that they
because
really uphold.
Don't you hear when like men say, right?
But I will say, if the promise of patriarchal sex is not afforded to men, they're just going to resort to another thing, which is violence.
That's what I'm saying.
Because there's a way to cement yourself in a patriarchal setting when it comes to men.
Yeah.
We've already known through other chapters that it is through violence and rage.
Yeah.
Against women, and now sex. But sex seems to be the first one, and then violence. Sexual violence, which is sexual patriarchal dominion of violence. Now, if we remove that, where women are basically saying, okay, we're not gonna have sex with you, then there is just actual violence.
Yeah.
So I would have to disagree with the statement.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I disagree. I wrote so true.
But what about what I said about the sexual conflict?
So true.
What about what I said about the sexual conflict? Do you think that's a much more probable?
No. No, because...
What is it? Plausible.
No.
Really?
Because if only one arena doesn't exist, you have another arena.
But think about it.
But the biggest arena is patriarchal sex.
That's what I'm saying, right? If you remove sex altogether, whether heterosexual or homosexual, right? You are removing the next generation of slaves, of workers, of new people that are upholding that patriarch.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's going to crumble.
No, it's not.
How?
Because you're still gonna have, because there's other arenas to display patriarchal dominion over people.
But I'm saying, right? If the goal is to get sex and reproduce,
that's not what she's saying here.
I know that's not what she's saying. You already disagree with that.
Okay.
So we can't even go off of that anymore. So now we have to find a new hypothesis and then add on
to it.
What is it?
The scientific
theories. You have to test the hypothesis. Yo, I'm not a scientist, okay? So don't come for me, okay? Anyway. So now we have to come up with a new hypothesis. I think mine is a little bit more plausible, in my opinion.
Okay.
But maybe I'm not articulating it.
No, it's actually already happening because a lot of women are not refusing to have sex with men.
Okay, but I'm taking it a step further, right? You're always gonna have a pick-me, right?
But they can't replenish the world. They can't do it by themselves.
I mean, yeah, but like I'm saying, like a lot of these women are waking up, and we see that all around the world, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to have sex or whatever like that. They don't want to be, in the same proximity with males and stuff like that. But I'm talking about in a larger grand scheme of things, right? Let's just look at its face value, right? If women altogether, women and men who sleep with other men, decide no more sex. The heterosexual men and the DL men, like what are they living for, quote unquote, if they can't get women, if they can't get the sex, right? Because like you said, patriarchy promises them, hey, you're gonna have a woman, you're gonna have sex, and possibly if you're on a DL, you can have a man too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because we don't want you to be sexually deprived.
Yeah.
We don't want that for you.
Yeah.
So you can definitely have.
So now I'm thinking that, and this is just a theory. I'm thinking that if that were to come to pass, where these heterosexuals and the DL men are not having sex and are not, reaping the benefits of patriarchy, I think they might actually like you said, insert violence.
Mm-hmm.
Not sexual violence, just like regular violence, right? But I think women have to fight back with violence too. They have to, for their own safety. You're gonna have to, right? And until, like, okay, we're seeing the results of like, okay,
oh, these men are dying because women are also enacting violence.
Then I think that's where like women are going to feel. No, I think women are going to feel safer to like, okay, restructure and reorganize, right? Because right now there are more men, right, than women in the world, right? I don't know.
I have no idea.
I don't know, but I know in China there's more women than more men. You know, with the whole like one-child policy and right, and the whole patriarchy and stuff like that. Like, you know how the there was like a whole like mass killing of girls
in India.
No, in China.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Recently?
I mean, I think like back like in like 2008 or like upward. Oh. Don't quote me, but remember like the one child like rule?
Yeah, it was overturned.
Yeah. And then I believe like they were choosing the male child. Yeah. Because he's the patriarch.
Oh yeah. So now there's a
so now there's like an influx of more men and not enough girls.
Women.
Men. And then I've seen like videos where like in rural areas these men have never like have like sexual intercourse and like they're working on the farms, so like they're pleading for
the government to provide them with
I don't know if that theory came out well than I thought.
I'm not really sure.
Yeah, but
we're gonna move on.
yeah.
This is gonna be a long chapter.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Okay. Ooh. So, is there anything you want to point out actually? So, because I feel like
just that I thought that I agreed with what she said about the sexual marketplace is a way for men to have dominion over women, and if we kind of take that away, then men could have rebelled against patriarchy a long time ago. True. I don't think that's true. I think they're just going to have another place where they can provide dominion over women.
Come on. I agree.
Sex is one huge arena. And I do believe that it will start a revolution where men can dismantle the patriarchy. But
honestly, I feel like if men really wanted to dismantle the patriarchy, they would have done it a long time ago.
Yeah.
They don't want to. They don't want to do it.
Because there's too much benefit. There's too much benefit.
Yeah.
They are still getting these women. They're still getting married. They're still getting pregnant.
Yeah.
And they have all that. They have the cake and eating
and you still going 50-50?
And the DL too. Like,
bruh,
you can have it all.
The world is your oyster.
You can be DL. You can have your kids. Your picket fence. Your dog. You can travel and like
be a passport, bro. Come back with your STDs. Give it like, bruh.
There's no shame.
There's
actually,
no shame.
Bring back shame.
There's no shame. No, but like that is so true. There's like absolutely no shame. Yeah, but so she went on and basically was like, basically talking about the boys and let me read this. For boys, this issue of controlling controlled beings with the mother's response to his penis usually she does not like it, and she does not know what to do with it. Her discomfort with his penis communicates that there is something inherently wrong with it. She does not communicate to the boy child that his penis is wonderful, special, and marvelous. This same fear of the boy's penis is commonly expressed by fathers who simply do not concern themselves with educating boys about their bodies. Sadly, an enlightened approach to child abuse led many parents to fear celebration of the child's body, especially the boy body, which may respond to playful physical closeness with an erection. In patriarchal culture, everyone is encouraged to see the penis, even the penis of a small boy, as a potential threat.
Potential weapon.
This is psychologically. This
is the psychology of rape culture.
Okay.
Boys learn that they should identify with the penis and potential pleasure erections while bring while simultaneously learning to fear the penis as though if it were a weapon that could backfire, rendering them powerless, destroying them.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, the underlying message boy received about sexual acts is that they will be destroyed if they are not in control, exerting power.
That is very interesting.
I work in childcare, and I was working in the toddler room a couple years ago, where this kid has a lot. He was like 3-4. I still remember his full name, all of that. I think he might be like in high school now. I think.
Really?
Yeah. It was that long ago.
Damn.
Or yeah. And so usually during sleep time, we provide cots, right? We provided like the cots that are not the foamy ones, but like the hard ones, whatever. And usually during sleep time, he would like rub himself on the cot. And I thought that was like, oh.
How old is it? How old is he at this time?
Like 3 or 4 at the time. And I told my lead teacher, like, okay, this is what I have observed about this particular child. Is that something that's like normal for him to do? And the lead teacher was like, yeah, he usually does that. And then he like goes to sleep and all that. And I'm like, okay, cool. Mm-hmm. So the lead teacher is aware and I have witnessed it, all that. But like every single time I would take out the cots, he would like rub himself in the cot while all his friends were sleeping. And then one day I asked him, do you know what you're doing? He was like, no. And then I asked him, does it feel good? He's like, yeah. Mm-hmm. I said, and I didn't say anything after that. I'm like, okay, you do you, boo. Like, you do you. So like even early on, young boys know what gives them pleasure and what doesn't. They're aware of their
body parts.
And even I worked in like the infant room too, like, you know, as an infant teacher too, when you're like changing a baby boy or whatever, they like to like feel down there or whatever, but it's kind of like messy because it's like poop and you try to clean it, they're like, you know, all that. But like they do touch themselves because they want to know what's up there. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes I wonder, like, damn, do these parents actually
have the conversation
like in an educational way, of course, that talk about the body parts, what it is, what it does, how it gives you pleasure, what to look out for, what not to look out for, obviously in an age appropriate sense, right? Because if the parents don't educate these young boys,
they're gonna have their own
preconceived notion of what it is. And like Bell Hooks said, that the women have the fear of the boy's penis because they
made her uncomfortable
because they see it as a potential weapon. Because they might grow older and terrorize other people with their penis.
Yeah.
Because they believe that sex is owed to them. And they might go and display sexual acts of violence against other young boys and young girls.
Yeah.
But it's like, as a parent, are you doing your due diligence and educating yourself? And also providing the right resources and education to your young boys? Yeah. I don't see that happening at all. I feel like, yeah, we live in a world where we talk about sex all the time.
As adults, but not as adolescents.
But we don't teach kids about sex, about like, we don't. So they have to resort to like watching movies and you know, all of that. Because there is no solid education for young boys, preteen, tweens, all of that. Tweens.
Yeah, no, yeah, I completely agree. Like, I think like my first sex ed was like in high school, I believe.
Which I think is too late.
Oh yeah. By then
if you like this, when I was working at, that kid was 4 years old. He knows. 4. He knows how to get pleasure by rubbing himself on the cot. He knows. Mm-hmm. And you're going to wait until high school for your kids to go to
sex ed?
Sex ed? No. And I'm not like, you can explain certain things to kid and they would get it without you saying
being
a lot.
explicit. Yeah.
Obviously, as they grow older with age, you explain a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. This is why I believe y'all should go to y'all should have an associate's degree in early childhood education, please.
Yeah.
You guys are doing a disservice to these kids by not talking to them and letting society and culture telling them the things that you don't want. I work with kids, and I know enough to know that I would never want my own child. Absolutely fucking not. But if I were to have my own child, a child boy, that's what I would do. Have that conversation in a way that's appropriate. Because waiting until high school for you to go to sex ed, that is so fucking late. Oh, so late. Oh, so late.
Yeah.
Oh, child. Because kids, now that they have social media, now that you guys are raising iPad kids, there's a lot of pornography on like kids too.
Kids too?
Yes. Kids pornography is very subtle. It's not in your face like, all like sex room movies and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Kids pornography is like it's like you're watching this animated show where you have Spider-Man and Elsa.
Okay.
Right? They're doing a skit or whatever like that, and then out of nowhere, Spider-Man falls on top of Elsa.
Okay.
And like do certain like stuff like that.
Okay.
That's considered soft porn.
Okay.
For kids.
Okay.
Because why are you on top of me? And then kids see that and they reenact that.
Mm.
So if a 4-year-old can rub himself in a fucking cot and get hard, right? What do you think a pre-tween is going to do when they fall in front of a young boy, a young girl, or a young boy and a young girl, and they like, like they touch? Hello, like,
is hello in the room with us?
Yeah, this is chat. We're gonna be 2 hours.
Yeah, damn, it's only an hour in.
Yes,
all right, let's move on. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to read this part. Right? It says sexual.
I want to read it.
Okay.
Actually, no, you can read
it.
No,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry. Actually, I want to read it before. Okay. Adolescent sexual socialization is the vulnerable moment in a boy's life when he is required to identify his selfhood and his sexuality with patriarchal masculinity. It is the meeting place for theory and practice. During these formative years, when a boy's sexual lust is often intense, he learns that patriarchal culture accepts him to covertly cultivate that lust and the will to satisfy it while engaging in overt acts of sexual repression. Well, this splitting is part of the initiation into patriarchal masculinity. It is a rite of passage. The boy learns as well as that female are the enemy when it comes to the satisfaction of sexual desire. They are the group that will impose on the boys the need to repress their sexual longing, and yet to prove his manhood, he must dare to move past repression and engage in sexual acts. So
it says the boy learned as well as the female are the enemy when it comes to the satisfaction of sexual desire. Why are the female the enemy when it comes to satisfaction of sexual desires? Why?
Because according to bell hooks, the young boy now knows that he has a sexual lust and desire, but he can't do anything about it. Because you need another party to fulfill that sexual desire.
Mm-hmm.
So now his sexual desire is repressed because he can get the woman, the girl,
to satisfy his
desire. So now he sees her as the enemy.
Child.
As if it is the girl's responsibility to fulfill that desire.
That's what I'm saying. That's why the patriarchy is so evil that you're not even like, okay, you're so entitled.
Yeah.
To even
as a boy.
To even assume that your birthright of satisfying your sexual desires is
to attain a girl.
Not to attain a girl is it is the responsibility of the female to it is the responsibility of the female to satisfy those sexual desires, right? And I feel like men don't make the connection when it comes to sexual desires and having that sexual desire satisfied by the opposite sex. They don't make the connection that, hey, it's not this female's responsibility to satisfy my desires.
Yeah. I think too that like in society there's no outlet for young boys to express that sexuality and that sexual desire freely. They just have to repress it. And I don't believe in repression because that's going to turn into anger, that's going to turn into violence. Repression is a pipeline to violence.
Repression is a pipeline
Repressing male young boys' sexual urges and lusts is a pipeline to violence.
So what should they do?
I think they should go to therapy.
Without involving the women.
They should go to therapy.
But that's not releasing it, right?
There's other ways to release sexual tension throughout the body that does not have to be with, that does not have to be looking at, like pornography and things like that. There's certain things of like, I don't know. I'm gonna have to look into that.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. And I don't think we can know. I mean, we can speculate, but we don't really know.
I'm gonna come back to that. It's very important to know.
No, it's very important to know, but like,
actually,
I don't know what that looks like.
Let me see what she says. Sexual repression fuels the boys' lust, the lust for boys and men. Shedding light on the negative impact of this socialization in the essay, Fuel for Fantasy, the Ideological Construction of No Lust, Michael S. Kimmel demonstrates that sexual repression creates the world in which male must engage constantly in sexual fantasies, eroticizing the non-sexual. Exploring the links between sexual repression and sexism, he explained, sexual pleasure is rarely the goal in any sexual encounter. Something far more important than mere pleasure is on the line. Our sense of ourselves as men. So when men have sex,
it's not even about the pleasure.
It's not even about the pleasure. It's about cementing themselves as men.
What?
It makes sense. Because patriarchy says that you need to have sex to be a man.
So it's not really about
you need to have sex, get money. But if you have money, you need to get more sex.
So that you can be much more of a man.
Yes.
So it's about affirming that you're a man.
Yeah, everything is just affirmed that you're a man in a patriarchal standpoint.
That is fucking insane.
Man's sense of sexual scarcity and an almost compulsive need for sex to conform manhood feeds each other.
Oh my God. Did you just have an epiphany?
I did. Remember what you said about how we can get male young boys to not have sexual repression? They have the lust and desire because they want to cement themselves as men.
Oh.
That's why.
That's why.
So if you can cement yourself as a man without exerting sexual behavior,
then you're not a man.
Then you don't have to repress yourself sexually.
Wait, what?
So there's other... You don't get it?
Can you say that one more time?
Okay. So according to Michael S. Kimmel, he's saying it's not about the pleasure that you get from sex that men want.
Yeah,
it's about cementing themselves as men and affirming themselves as men.
Yeah.
So let's go back to being a boy. A boy is now fueled with lust and that they want to satisfy with whatever like that. But the boy is sexually repressed
because he has to get the girl to consent, right?
Right. But it's not about the pleasure. It's about going from boyhood to manhood. So if there's a way to go from boyhood to manhood without being sexually repressed, then it's doable. Because it's not about the pleasure in itself. It's about you becoming a man. So we need to write a passage for boys to become a man without participating in a sexual act.
Okay. Pause.
Without being repressed.
Pause.
Okay. Is that...
Pause the show. No.